King Thrushbeard. A king had a daughter who was so beautiful that words could not describe her. But she was proud and haughty. She did not like any of her suitors. No matter who proposed to her, she would send him away and even mock him. One day, the king threw a big banquet and invited men from near and far who wanted to get married. They all lined up in order of rank. First the kings, then the dukes, princes, counts, barons, and finally the common nobles. The princess was led along the line to choose a groom, but she did not like any of them, finding some flaw in each. One was too fat, and she said, "A barrel of wine." The second was too tall. Tall as the sky, but stupid, probably. The third was too short. Short, smooth, no need for that one. The fourth was too pale. Pale as death. The fifth was very red-cheeked, a baked crab. The sixth did not stand quite straight. A raw log, let it dry behind the stove. And so she managed to mock each one. But she was especially cruel to one good king who stood first in line and had a slightly crooked beard. "Ha!" she laughed. "His beard is like a thrush's beak." And from then on, they called him Thrush. But the old king, seeing that his daughter was only mocking people and rejecting all the suitors who had gathered here for her, became terribly angry and swore that he would marry her to the first beggar who came to the palace door. A few days later, a wandering singer stopped under the window and sang a song, hoping to get at least a small alms. The king heard the song and said, "Call the singer here." A man in dirty, torn clothes entered, sang before the king and his daughter, and when he finished the song, he asked for alms from their mercy. The king replied, "I liked your singing so much that I will give you my daughter as your wife." The princess was frightened, but the king said sternly, "I have sworn to give you to the first beggar, and I will not break my oath." No amount of begging helped her. They called a priest, and the princess was forcibly married to the singer. Then the king said, "It is not right for a beggar woman to remain in my palace. Take your husband and leave this place." The beggar took her by the hand and led her away, and she had to follow him on foot. They came to a large, dark forest, and she asked, "Whose forest is this? Whose land?" "Druzdabrada, the king. If you had married him, it would have been yours." "Oh, I am miserable. What good is my beauty to me? Why didn't I marry Druzd?" "I don't like it at all," said the singer at last, "that you regret not marrying someone else. Am I really so bad for you?" Finally, they came to a tiny little hut, and the princess asked, "Oh dear, oh my, whose little house is this?" The singer replied, "This is my house and yours, and we will live here together." The princess had to bend down to enter the low doorway. "Where are the servants?" she asked. "What servants?" The beggar was surprised. "You have to do everything yourself. Light the stove, put water on to boil, and cook something to eat." But the princess did not know how to light the stove or cook, and the beggar had to do it himself, even though he was not very good at it. After eating a meager supper, they both went to bed. The next day the beggar woke her up before dawn to do housework. They lived like this for several days, until they ate all their supplies. Then the man said, "Woman, we can't go on like this, just eating and not earning anything. Start weaving baskets." He went to cut some vines, brought them home, and his wife began to weave. But the tough vines scratched her delicate hands until they bled. "I see that this won't work," said her husband. "Try spinning. Maybe you'll be better at that." She sat down at the spinning wheel and tried to spin, but the thin thread soon cut her delicate fingers so badly that blood flowed. "You see," said her husband, "you are incapable of any work, and I will have nothing but grief with you. Let's try trading pots and all kinds of crockery. I'll buy the goods, and you'll go to the market and sell them." "Oh dear," she thought, "when the people from my father's kingdom see me at the market, they'll laugh at me." But nothing helped. She had to obey. She couldn't die of hunger. On the first day, she did good business, because people were eager to buy from such a beautiful woman, and paid as much as she asked. There were also many who paid the money but did not take the goods, leaving them with her. They lived for several days on the money she earned, and then her husband bought a lot of dishes from the potters again. She sat down at the edge of the market, laid out her goods, and began to sell. Suddenly, a drunken hussar appeared out of nowhere, rode his horse over her dishes, and trampled them into pieces. The woman cried bitterly, and did not know what to do. "Oh, I am miserable," she lamented. "What will my husband say to me now?" She ran home and told him about her misfortune, and who sits with pots at the edge of the market. Her husband replied, "Stop crying. I can see that you are incapable of any useful work. I was at the royal palace and asked if they needed a maid in the kitchen. They told me they could take you on for food alone." And so the princess became a kitchen maid, had to obey the cook and do the dirtiest work. She hid 2 pots under her apron. She put all kinds of leftovers in them and brought them home so that her husband would have something to eat. But then the king of that kingdom married off his eldest son, and a lavish wedding was held in the palace. The poor servant girl went upstairs and stood by the door to get a glimpse of the festivities. The lights were lit, and the guests began to arrive, each one more beautiful than the last, dressed in magnificent and luxurious clothes, while she thought sadly and regretfully about her fate, cursing herself for the pride and arrogance that had led her to such disgrace and poverty. The servants brought all kinds of dishes into the hall which smelled delicious, and when they carried out the plates they sometimes threw the maids a piece of uneaten food, and she hid it all in her cups to take home. Then the prince himself came out, dressed in silk and velvet, with a gold chain around his neck. Seeing the beautiful servant standing by the door, he took her by the hand and wanted to dance with her, but she refused in every way. And when she saw that it was King Dresdeborod himself, who had proposed to her and whom she had mercilessly mocked, she was completely terrified. But Dresdeborod would not listen to any excuses, and dragged her into the hall by force. Suddenly, the string holding the pockets under her apron broke. Teacups failed, the soup spilled, and the leftovers scattered. The guests, seeing this, burst out laughing, and she was so ashamed that she wanted to sink 1,000 fathoms into the ground. She broke free, rushed to the door, and attempted to flee, but a young man caught up with her on the stairs and brought her back. Looking at him, she saw that it was King Dresdeborod again. He said kindly to her, "Do not be afraid of me. It is I, your beggar, who lived with you in the hut. For your sake I disguised myself as a beggar, and the hussar who trampled on your pots was also me. I did all this to break your pride and punish you for the mockery you subjected me to." She wept bitterly and said, "I have hurt you deeply, and am not worthy to be your wife." But he replied, "Don't cry. All the trouble is over now, and we will have our wedding." Then the maids came to her and dressed her in luxurious clothes. Her father and all the courtiers came and wished her happiness in her marriage to King Dresdeborod, and only then did the real joyful wedding begin. If we had been there, we would have eaten and drunk to our heart's content.